Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are so excited to start our monthly strategy session. This month, our host is going to be Jamoke. So I'm going to pass it off to him to get our session started.
Greetings, everyone. Good afternoon. Chimoke Fetayo, serving as the South Region representative. So we continue to evolve these calls. Last call was led by the Northeast or the North Region, Mid-Atlantic, North and Mid-Atlantic region. Rep Jean-Pierre did a great job, and so I'll be facilitating this call, and we'll move it around to the different regional reps. So we're going to start with our trivia question. Is something also that we've added to these calls. And so we ask you to put the answer in the chat. Put the answer in the chat, and the first one who gets it correct will can pick from one of these books that you see on the screen from the um, Evanston Reparations Resource Library. Okay. Let's see. One answer coming in that is not correct. All right, at this time, we're going to go ahead and we'll leave the question up. We're going to move into well, I guess we won't leave the question up. We'll move into our partner reports. We'll start off with First Repair.
Sure, I can give updates for First Repair. Our first
Yes.
update is we're really excited to announce our Reparations Book Club. Our very first meeting will be next month, April 29th. And our very first book will be Reparations and Reparatory Justice, Past, Present, and Future. I'll put the link to join the book club in the chat. And we're hoping you will join us. Next, just a reminder that our reparations map is live, and we'd love to make sure we're capturing your organization and initiative. So if you scan the QR code here or visit reparationsresources.com or email map at First Repair, we will make sure your organization and initiative is up to date on our reparations map. And then finally, just a reminder that everyone is welcome to join our regional strategy session. So in addition to this monthly national call, we host regional sessions led by our regional leaders, and that link will also be in the chat. And I believe that's all from First Repair.
All righty. Thank you, Bailey. Thank you, First Repair, for your great work that you're doing, continuing to lead us. So do we have a partner report from African American Redress Network? Linda Man on.
I am. Hello,
Hey,
Jamoke.
how you doing?
I've got some really terrific news that I'll just share and then just say that we continue to work alongside communities that are engaged in reparatory justice. But hot off the press, the College of the College Park City Council in Maryland in for Lakelanders, which was a community that we worked with to deal with the impact of urban renewal, just had land purchased by the city to develop specifically affordable housing in Lakeland, which was one of the reparative requests. So it's a huge win. They're going to have affordable housing in the Lakeland community where their land was taken from them during urban renewal. So I'll put the It's it's a beginning, it's a step forward, and it's a commitment from the government. So bravo, so excited for them, and I just wanted to share that. And then I just want to remind everybody to be on the lookout. It's not been finalized yet. I mean, it has been finalized, but the Africatown Middle Passage National and International Convening will be in July 9th, 10th, and 11th. We have a meeting tomorrow. I'll be happy to give updates to the community and I'll share with First Repair so they can also post about any information coming on that. But this will be convening, bringing together members from the various different middle passages that have been worked on with UNESCO. And there are 40 sites that have been established in the United States out of the 52. And they will also be bringing people from the international arena for this as well. So just want to raise up these joyous celebrations. I'm sure someone else on the call will also speak about yesterday's United Nations, so I'll let somebody else talk about that. Is somebody else going to raise that up? Yes. Um, oh, the location will be in Africatown. Yes, it will be held in Africatown. Um, and we just continue to walk alongside communities in their quest for repair, are always grateful and honored to be able to do so. And we're available. And you can always email us. And if we have the ability to offer capacity or research, we are here.
Thank
Carrie.
you, Lynn. Yes, and thank you for the yeah, Lakeland and Maryland is continuing to stay very, very active and getting victories all over the place. So, keep our eye on Maryland and Lakeland specifically. Yes, yes. All right. Thank you, Linda. We have an update from Liberation Ventures.
Thank you,
Jenny
Demobi.
on.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. Quick update. I just wanted to share. I've put the link in the chat
Mhm.
that Liberation Mentors, we just launched a reparations and racial repair calendar as a tool to help bring together key dates for the movement. So this is also historic wins, significant dates, as well as current events like this meeting's on there. If you have any event that you'd like to add to the list, you can click that form to submit a request. So this is a tool intended to help us all share what we're doing and stay on top of it and collaborate more effectively. So happy to take any questions, and that's it for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginie. All right. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people have had that idea of, like always say, where can we find information? So to have one central place to find information, that's good. I'm sure it's gonna be challenging building it out, but it's something that is definitely needed. Yeah. All right, great. All right. So as I said, we've been re refining these national strategy meetings. And so we thought perhaps that what we would do is instead of going through each region report, that we would just focus on one region. And then you could also find out the information that's going on in the region on the website. So we're now putting the regional reports up on the website. So the featured region for today happens to be the South region. So our update our update is our update from the South is first of all, we would like to lift up Fulton County, who has recently put forward their harm report, 700-page harm report, and they're now engaged in the process of having grassroots organizations, partnering with grassroots organizations to disseminate their findings into the community, as well as they've also bound it as well. So they're going to be make the bound version of it available to the community as well. And so, and so also sometimes we have to report the not so good as well to keep it honest. So Asheville has always been doing great work around the reparations movement. We know that they inherited a church building, 16,000 square feet, one of the largest forms of repair from in the community as an institutional transfer. And so they've had the Mennonites that have been working on the property, refurbishing the property, doing renovations. But recently they've had some problems with theft on the property, as well as they've had some problems with vandalism. So they are really working to um, make the space more secure. And because the Mennonites are actually about to move out of the space, and the staff for RSA will be moving into the building. So we want to make sure that the building is very secure when that happens. And so, yeah, that's one of the concerns and one thing that's moving forward in Asheville, North Carolina. And also, what came out of our Southern Region meeting, our last meeting, was actually a lot of announcements that are really applicable to the whole first repair ecosystem. So one of the announcements that were made is the fact that we're celebrating or commemorating, remembering the 25th anniversary of the Durban 400, the victory that happened in the reparations movement of getting crimes against humanity recognized in that Durban Declaration and the program of action. So the December 12th movement is organizing people to have an endorsement letter that they're encouraging organizations to sign on to the endorsement letter. And they're also encouraging organizations and cities to organize an event on August the 29th in commemoration of the 25th anniversary of the Durban 400 and the Durban victory. So I'm going to make several announcements, and then I'll put all of the information in the chat. We also, one of the announcements that was made in the group, I won't spend too much time on it because Linda Mann already spoke about it, was the Africatown Middle Passage National and International Convening, which will be again July 9th through the 11th. Another group that was introduced to us in our convening was Lift Off Order 15. This is a new organization that is coming together to build a digital archive of harms for people of African descent in the United States, as well as to collect oral, I like to say, our stories. And so they're, again, just building that out, but we want at a certain point, they'll be taking information from different cities and regions and organizations to build that archive out. And then rounding out our announcements would be that there will be a Tulsa Reparations Summit, a high-level summit that will be held in Tulsa, Oklahoma on April the 24th through the 26th. Featured speakers will be none other than Inamba, Robin Rue Simmons, also Cam Howard, Joy DeGrew, Keenan Keller, Justin Hansford, Reverend Michael Neighbors, and others. We're looking forward to that very powerful convening in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so that is our report from the South region. And as I mentioned, also maybe I didn't mention, the South region meets on the first. South region meets on the first Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. First Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. And again, you can find out more information about the other regions, as including the South region, on our website now. All right, so I was looking in the chat. Anybody hasn't responded to besides Mickey Dean, responded to our trivia question yet? Let's see. Okay, so very excited to introduce our next two guests. I've worked with one for quite some time, worked with another a little while. So we'll be discussing how the city of Decatur has really put forward what we consider model legislation and a model for how to engage the community in creating a reparations task force. And we have Sister Lisa Frank, who is our, as As Robin Inamba always says, our legislative champion, indicator, who put forward the resolution and read it in a very powerful and moving way as she entered it into the record into the city of Decatur. Lisa Frank was elected to the city commission in 2019, has been a resident of the city of Decatur for over 20 years. Lisa is a staunch advocate for housing equity and affordability, having successfully championed for both Decatur's mandatory inclusionary housing ordinance and the repeal of the city's longstanding exclusionary housing ordinance. She serves as vice chair of the Decatur Land Trust Board and is the founder of Beacon Hill Concert Series, an entertainment and educational hybrid that amplifies the voices and the history of the residents displaced from Decatur's historic Beacon Hill community by the harmful urban renewal practices. In May 2025, Lisa introduced a reparations resolution that was passed unanimously by the City Commission and serves as the foundation for future and towards reparations efforts for the city of Decatur. Now, my good brother here, Miley Davis, I was kind of surprised when I got this little short bio from him. I was like, but I was glad it was a nice short bio so I could probably spend a half hour doing his bio and his accolades. But I'm going to read a little bit of it and then I'll add a little bit to it. So, Brother Miley Mel Davis, the founding partner of the Davis Bozeman Law Firm, is an African-centered civil rights attorney, human rights organizer, and author based in Atlanta. Davis Bozeman Johnson Law is one of Georgia's largest African-American owned law firms with offices in Savannah, Statesboro, and Decatur. For nearly 30 years, he has been involved in building coalitions, organizing protests, and conducting training to support the Black liberation movement. He was a member of the historic Durban 400 that participated in the United Nations World Conference Against Racism in South Africa, where colonialism and slavery were declared crimes against humanity. He played a key organizing role in ending cash bonds in Atlanta and the removal of the Confederate monument in Decatur. Brother Miley is a community activist that also happens to be a lawyer. He uses his role as a lawyer so he can be an even more effective community activist in Decatur. And we're just really proud of the work that he's done. He served in leadership within COBRA. He currently serves as the chair of the Decatur Reparations Task Force and has done just a tremendous amount of work in the Decatur and City of Atlanta area, representing many high-profile law cases, pro bono, and just a tremendous amount of work. Like I said, I could go on and on, but just thank Brother Miley for being able to share with us some of the work, how they engage students, engage the community and scholars in creating the resolution before they even presented it to the Decatur City Commission. And we also, as I said, will bring on both of them, Lisa Meyer, who's, I believe, Mayor Pro Tem now of Decatur, and share their journey in reparations in the city of Decatur.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I was expecting you to kick it off. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for having us. There is a lot of work going on in Decatur, but it's never enough. My true focus when I decided to serve in an elected position was related to housing. I did not realize how intrinsically linked housing is to reparations. And I believe it was Miss Linda who spoke earlier about affordable housing being built in a space that was once a place of displacement. I became an elected official because I was tired of witnessing super gentrification, which is today's government sanctioned urban renewal, which is causing the displacement of Black homeowners just as it did in the 1950s and 60s. It was not my intent to jump into reparations work, but I realized that while I was fighting to prevent harms, I was not doing anything to help to provide restitution for those who had been harmed. And after meeting people who experienced harms from the first displacement from City of Decatur, I call what happened to Beacon Hill the first displacement. And then there was a second displacement in a community called Oakhurst, which is where I live. um, I realized that I needed to shift my focus a little bit more toward making sure that people were made whole again, from the harm that was caused by a government that I was elected to represent. It is a great pleasure to learn and serve with people who have been doing this work for years, decades. But there is a real challenge in that because the call to action needs to be rapid and quick. And what I have found in this seat is that while we are moving very quickly in Decatur, I don't feel as though we are necessarily making as fast a progress as we need to be able to preserve anything that would be left for some sort of redress. Um, we created um, the Decatur Reparations Task Force less than 1 year ago. It is fully formed. It has received city funding. The Honorable Mr. Davis is the chair of this task force, and Wanda Sims Waters, who is one of the original displaced Beacon Hill community members, serves as the vice chair. And so I am also a part of this task force, and I am um, very excited about seeing what this task force is creating and how this task force is taking a new lens into what we can do in our very small, less than 5 square mile city to try to rectify some of these harms that were experienced in the first phase of urban renewal in Decatur. Mr. Davis, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I am unmuted, right? Y'all can hear me. Um, yeah, so I was thinking about three things. And the first one, is I guess really directly tied to Lisa. Um, I say keep the light on. Those of us who do the work around reparations, we have to keep the light on. We have to keep talking about it. We have to keep spreading the good news, the gospel of reparations. And it was when we had Robin Ruth Simmons here that we had a sit down and Lisa met, they talked, we had this conversation. Baba Akinyele Moja was there. And it was just another one of those examples of Lisa at the time was like, I'm on this, I'm really on the housing piece, affordable housing. And just over time, she saw the connection, she took action. And so, if we just have to be really intentional about continuing to talk about it and not writing people off because their initial reaction might be, well, I have other work to do. Because many of us were in the same, most of us at the time I first became aware of reparations, I was in the African-centered education movement. So I was like, we need to be focused on educating our children. We don't have time for, something that may not happen in our lifetime, but here we are. And so I just want us to just kind of, keep that front of mind. And I think that has been critical in our approach. The even and many of you all probably have had similar experiences, even our legacy residents. And when we talk about our legacy Beacon Hill residents, these are the folks who were born and raised in the city of Decatur in that particular community, most of whom have been displaced. But when they heard about reparations, they initially were like, no way. We never took handouts. We've been a proud people. And, a lot of the things that we often hear, and it's just been through, continued engagement that they were like, well, yeah, a wrong did happen. My mother and father were pushed off of their, out of their house or off of their property for little or nothing. And so now they have become some of the most staunch reparations activists in our community and in this work. And so again, that's just another example. And then the other part that I think has been critical has been engaging young people. And Lisa opened up essentially City Hall and said, "Hey, we have these archives. Let's get in here." And with the help of Professor Natsu Saito, who was at the time over at Georgia State College of Law, and Dr. Akinyela Umoja, who is still at Georgia State in the Africana Studies Department, they got us students. And so with students and community members, we were able to get in and start doing some things. And we had a group who wrote the people's history of the city of Decatur. And so it was a reflection on the history of Decatur from the perspective of indigenous, the Muskogee Creek people, the African folk who were brought here from a very different lens. So we used a lot of that research plus the research from the students to put together the resolution that Lisa read. And just having her has been as a part of this is a game changer. Having somebody in government, right? But she's not in government like that, but to be in position, I should say. So that's been incredible. She was overwhelmed with emotion when she read it. Like, that's because she's a part. We didn't just give it to somebody and say, now read this. She's a part of it. So I just wanted to lift those up in terms of some of our approaches, and definitely looking forward to reading other people's harm reports so we can figure out and keep learning what we need to be looking for and how we need to do this.
I agree, and thank you for those kind words. I think the last thing that people would have expected was City of Decatur to create a reparations task force before other larger cities in Georgia. And what's so inspiring about that is City of Decatur is tiny. We are literally 4.7 square miles. We have a budget that is well under $100 million a year. There are cities around us with billion-dollar budgets, multi-billion-dollar budgets. And our small city is actually investing percentage-wise more money in its task force than, say, City of Atlanta or Fulton County. It's not a lot, but when you look at what our budget is compared to what City of Decatur is contributing, it is actually more than the cities who have bigger budgets. And so, what I'm hoping will come out of our little bitty city of Decatur taking action like this is that other small cities will see that it's possible. And a lot of times, when a city is smaller, there's less red tape. There are less people to go through to get things done. When you are working with a government that is small and mighty, that small and mighty can absolutely be in your favor. What's really important is finding someone who, similar to myself, is actually a community advocate who happens to sit in an elected seat. When you have someone who is not a politician, I get really upset when people call me a politician because I am not. I am just a representative of the people in my community. And so when you find someone who is like me, who happens to be sitting in a seat where you may ask for access to an entire city's archive and be told, ooh, maybe, or ooh, could you please give us a written report as to why that's important and we'll consider it. When I ask for it, it's highly unlikely that they're going to tell me, the person who's been elected to represent the people, that I can't have access to the people's documents. You just need someone in the position to be able to further the movement that you're trying to make. The second thing that Mr. Davis mentioned that has been so critical to this is the community engagement of young people. So, I don't think I get to qualify as a young person anymore. I'm 44, but I am younger than the people who've been doing this work since the 60s and 70s. And so they look at me as a young person who is getting engaged. I am engaging young people to me, high school students, college students who are so deeply moved and affected by what they see when they do these research sessions that they want to do more. And so, if we are looking at expanding this kind of small community model to other small cities, I think that the first thing we have to do is find that elected official who is less concerned about public image or less concerned about their forward trajectory of their political career and more concerned about how they can best be of service to the people. And those are the ones you want to invite to dinner with Robin Rue Simmons.
Yeah. And we started, and I think it's important to do the work for free. We do the work for start out, obviously, clearly there's an ecosystem that has been built out now that supports funding for it. But we just had, we got to start, and just starting out with just volunteers at least gave us the footing to keep moving it forward. And we see a hand up.
That's me,
There
Robin,
you
also known as Namba, or Namba, also known as Robin. Thank you all for
go.
coming. I know how busy you both are. I just want to lift up a couple of observations that has me so excited about the work that you're doing. And it's very familiar to the process in Evanston when I observe the relationship between Beacon Hill, Moali's leadership, your steady public service. And so I remember when we met a few years ago now, and you and I were the same person in that moment when I came into office. I, like you, did not come into office advancing reparations. It evolved to reparations for me. I also came in concerned about housing as a way to build wealth, uh, preserve space and place for us and all the things, and evolve to reparations. And so, why I lift up Decatur so much is the steady, constant movement of the Beacon Hill group and all of the stakeholders in Decatur that took what may have sounded like a no or resistance as information on how to tighten up and what to do next and how to come with more collateral for their case. I also love the point in doing the work with what you have where you are. And so not letting fundraising get in the way of that first step and using the academy. We have so many incredible academics, Dr. Akinyele Umoja, who was mentioned. There are others, Linda Mann, who's on the call, Justin Hansford, Al Tillery. I just want to encourage folks that if you feel stuck and don't have a path forward, that you can reach out to the Academy because they have ways that they can help you build capacity so that you can build a compelling case to get to funding. And so, with that shared, can you all, Moali in particular, can you share sort of what was your thinking when we're all friends and family now? So were you like angry when things weren't moving quick enough with the government? And what were sort of the internal organizing tips that you could share with folks that are kind of in a similar spot that you were a couple of years ago, that you just kept moving forward?
Yeah, that's funny. I think, thank you. Jamoke was like pushing us like, yo, man, where's the resolution? Because he and I have been comrades in the reparations movement since I was in law school in 99, 98. So he was just like, bruh, you normally are like moving. And um this was different in that we were really doing a deeper dive, trying to really lay out the case. Because yes, we thought we could get um, a resolution passed that just kind of highlighted some of the issues, but the work of these, I also forgot one of the other very powerful parts of the work has been the oral history work. So we have an elder in our community, Mayor Elizabeth Wilson, who's 91, who was the first Black commissioner and then the first Black mayor of the city of Decatur. And so having access to her, and she has her own personal archives of just stuff. But I think really taking a deeper dive, and I know that we have to sometimes, and it depends on what people are driven by. I think Jamoke was like, man, the time is hot. We got to move now. And he was right on. But at the same time, we were also trying to make sure that we were giving Lisa everything that she would need because we're also trying to wage this public campaign. Our demographic is highly affluent and white primarily. Those are the folks that we're going to end up having to convince. And what was a much more liberal leaning city feels more and more conservative as we go along. And as things are just shifting and changing politically. And so we were just trying to make sure that we had the evidence as much as we could to put forward. And I thought Lisa was pushing us too. Lisa was like, "Hey, we should get this in now," and so it was, we kind of set a timeline to say, okay, let's get it in now. This is the session. The timing is right. Um, our mayor now is the first African American man. So he made history by becoming the first African American man. And that he and Lisa, I mean, for them to be mayor and mayor pro tem, things are in alignment for us to get some stuff done, but we got to, now we're increasing our speed even. So it is it's been a journey, but I think just consistently we keep coming back to the fact that we have some of our legacy residents who are 90, 80. We've got to get this done. We got to get this done. And that's a motivator for sure.
Absolutely. I don't think I've ever seen you with a frown on your face or projecting anything other than optimism. I'm sure you get mad, but I've never seen it. I think part of our urgency, well, I can tell you what my urgency was. Um, and this is probably the only politicking I do. I know when I have the votes to get something done, and then I know when my votes are at risk. And so one of the things that Decatur has that's probably special and significant is within its 10-year strategic plan, reparations is actually outlined. So I was able to defer to the strategic plan that was set and voted upon by the city commission as the kind of anchor to this work. In all of my conversations with the other commissioners, I was constantly and frequently reminding them that we were solely executing a part of our strategic plan. And priorities in our strategic plan require funding and resources. It was just that simple to me. And I think that as we're going through this complex effort that requires community engagement and lots of education, there are ways that those of us who are trying to get the work done can simplify our delivery in the way that we're asking for what we need and explaining why we're doing it. That can be just not refuted. And so in my case, it was, you've already voted for reparations. Let's just get it done on paper.
So our upcoming challenges and what we're really working through. Um, I think for all of us, sometimes it's a lack of imagination, right? That we just at times we have to let our reparations revolutionary minds run wild. And so we can't look at what we might think is possible. And so our challenge will just be thinking big and broad and bold as we examine and develop our harms report and make our recommendations. And it's a with a city that doesn't have again a huge budget that's 4.7 miles, that has this increasingly what feels like an increasingly conservative leaning. How do we win? But just knowing that we will, believing that we will, and having faith that we will is what I think we have to keep coming back to. So um, that's that's what we keep saying. That's what we keep working through, and it's just a lot of it's a lot of grassroots work and engaging the community to make sure that they feel a part of it and that they are engaged as well. So I see some hands up, Brother Jamoke. I'll be quiet.
Yeah, I guess we have, Sister Namba has already set the example, so I guess we have moved into the Q&A part of the presentation. I'm
So
going to read a question that was in the chat first, and then we'll go to people who have their hands up. There's a question that was asked in the chat: has federal DEI legislation hindered in any way?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that, whomever asked that. Thank you for that question. I get really
On
excited
profit.
about that. Not for me. And
Yeah.
it goes back to how we are communicating what we're doing. We are providing redress. We are working to provide redress to people who have been harmed by a city government. That is not DEI. It is redress is provided to people who were rear-ended by a driver. Okay, when a person sues and gets a settlement, that is a form of redress. When your bank overcharges you fees and you go into that bank and say, I'd like my fees refunded, guess what? That is redress. So we are doing nothing different than what is already a standard in the American culture. And so there is no way that anybody can apply DEI to this, because we are looking at providing redress for individuals who were harmed by the city of Decatur in a manner that was detrimental to them. And I can make that argument anywhere, anytime, any place.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to say too, since you mentioned me in terms of pushing you all to move forward, you know, I was pushing because I felt like, you all had the ability to do it in the city of Decatur based on the makeup of the city council. However, I do think that you were right, Molly, in the sense that even if you all did it without bringing the community along, there could have been some challenges to that. So I think the idea of bringing the community along, doing a lot of education with the community before you put the bill in, which we knew was going to pass, was the wise decision. All right, I'm gonna go to, I saw Vicky Casanova's hand up first. Yeah, unmute yourself.
you're
Like
muted.
you're still muted, Vicky. Yeah, yeah.
You're muted.
Can we unmute her or is it on her side?
I, I think it's on her
All right.
side.
Okay, no, I just got a message
Oh,
to unmute. So I'm literally
Okay.
driving back from New York as we speak. So forgive the avatar. I'm trying to not be totally out of process here. I just wanted to, first of all, say thank you very, very much. And then greetings, counselor. Been watching you move and really, really proud. I wanted to also just
thank you.
yes, yes. I wanted to just quickly mention, if I could, how exciting it is to continue to hear what people are doing, in their local areas and municipalities that can help inform what someone else may be doing in a totally different region. I live in a really small suburb just outside of Chicago, and they are not thinking that they can follow well, they can't follow a model that right now that Evanston did because they don't have the basis of some of the sales and so forth on which it was modeled. But the bigger picture is just hearing that exactly what you just said. This is redress, and people get scared of words that we nonetheless still need to use, reparations and full reparation, but clarifying things in ways that folks can embrace is so important. So part of the language issue, and I'll just try to wrap up quickly here, is that the language opportunity, I will say, for so long, we've been forced to only look at civil rights. And shout out and all love to especially the work of our stalwart, conscious civil rights, legal workers and lawyers for such a long time. As you know, I'm a huge fan, has been, a quarter of a century with Stan Willis. So I'm very, very
I
confident.
thought that was you. Oh
That's
my God. How you doing, sis? I'm sorry, y'all. I love you. God bless. Peace and blessing. I'll follow up with you after this. Man.
Absolutely. He's here. Our ancestors are proud, but so proud. So, but I wanted to say, this is
Mm.
human rights education work that we all, and that you all are doing. And so, for folks who have been lifting and trying and pushing and fighting for 70 years and hundreds of years, you're literally bringing human rights home, whether people see that or understand it or not. So I just wanted to say two things here. I do work with the large HBCU network. So anybody anywhere who maybe doesn't have the academic connection immediately in their area, reach out to us and we can help with that. Secondly, just, the issue of the fact that this is human rights work. I've been for a while now, a few years working just to learn, but also to participate virtually with a group out of Graz, Austria, which unfortunately was on the, part of the EU bloc that abstained, and they need to understand that silence is complicity, or complicit. So that's a different conversation of what our next strategies are with regards to
Okay.
yesterday's historic vote. But if you can look at some of the human rights cities work and recommendations, that's all I wanted to say. That may help people envision with the harm reports and analyses that they're doing, just to envision, what might be possible that they haven't yet thought of either. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all.
Thank you,
Thank
Vicki.
you.
I saw Eileen Khan's hand up.
Hi. I'm very happy to be here. Jean-Pierre Brutus has helped me understand that this is a classroom I need to attend as much as I can. I am the co-chair of the League of Women Voters of New Jersey's Reparations Committee. We are the first league in the nation to have a position on reparations. And our goal is to introduce the whole idea after our 2-year study, and our state league has adopted this, to get the National League to adopt this. So every single state has a different agenda, a different position, a different population. I will be at the National Convention in Columbus this year. 2 years from now, we will try to make this an issue for concurrence. We wanted to have them adopt our position, and in conjunction with Massachusetts, who also was the second state. So we need to figure out how to reach a national audience. So each of these regional conventions are going to be really, really important for me to attend, to learn what's happening across the country. In June, we're going to send out some literature. We're going to hand literature out and meet people face to face from Nebraska, wherever we have people. So I'm open to any ideas you have on how we reach people from a national perspective, because it's such a big issue. It's easy to say that New Jersey was the last slave state of the North. It's easy to say that people were never taught that. And it makes people raise up and go, I don't know this. I didn't believe this. but other places either don't have that history or they just don't have the same connection, certainly as the 13 colonies and as people who fought in the Revolutionary War, and the understanding that enslaved people made our country, but I don't know how that fits in with the rest of the states of this country. I know there are certain places that are clearly places that are just like New Jersey, but we want to have people realize, as Isabel Wilkerson said, this is not on you. It's not your fault. We have to teach white people that if you buy a house with termites, you don't tear the house down, you repair the house. And we are leaning heavily on repair and reconciliation and truth, because a lot of people get hung up on the dollars and it's getting nuts, you know? So I'm open to any suggestions you have. I will take notes and I will start adding that to the conversation I'll be having with the CEO and the president of the League of Women Voters of New Jersey as we go forward on this campaign. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Khan. There were a couple of questions in the chat, and I'm about to move to close this down. So Virginie asked about how did reparations get into the strategic plan of Decatur, and did Beacon Hill Black Alliance for Human Rights have anything to do with that?
Oh, yeah.
So let me say this. So it took Lisa to get it in there. And you have to have somebody on your side on the inside to get certain things in there, period. But the other thing that I wanted to lift, I see Phil Cuffey on. He's our current co-chair for Beacon Hill Black Alliance for Human Rights. One of the other things is, at every opportunity, how do we integrate reparations into there isn't a such thing as just reparation spaces anymore. We have to make every space, put reparations in every space. And so when as a part of our Pan-African Festival, that was how we got Sister Naba to come, was we had a reparation showing of the film the night before our Pan-African Festival. So trying to incorporate reparations and those conversations into everything that we do, especially things that related to the art, music, film, whatever, so that it just becomes a part of it, and it doesn't look like it's not something that people need to see that's off to the side. It's central to everything. The whole reason we're in the condition that we're in, and is the reason that we need reparations and we need to attain it. And so we have to keep centering reparations as a part of all of these kinds of conversations. I'm also at a HBCU. I teach at Clark Atlanta. And so we're about to have a reparations class that we'll start teaching based on something that was constructed by Ajwa Ayatora, Baba AK, Nasu Saito. So we just have to keep building on each other's work and keep spreading it. And I would encourage you, Sister Khan, that let us send us what you've done in Jersey, and let us approach the women's league here. I know them. I say, hey, did you know what's going on, in Jersey, and just start putting it on people and make them, rise to the occasion of what we know is happening around the country in these different organizations. Even in the Divine Nine, the same thing we have to do. So that's.
And if I may add, most cities, if not all cities, are required to go through a comprehensive or strategic planning process every 5 or 10 years. And generally, those start with community sessions where people say what's important to them. Something I say lovingly to my partners in community is, please don't have me out here looking crazy. If it sounds like I'm the only one asking for it, they'll say, That's just Lisa being extra again. But if other members of the community are saying the same thing that I'm saying, it provides validity. So show up to those strategic planning sessions in your city and start using the language. We want to see reparations. We want to see, redress for Black residents who were harmed. We want to see reparations for urban renewal. And if you keep saying it and socializing that within your communities, then that will be one, documented as a community concern, and two, something that has to be considered. It may not be incorporated if you don't have the votes to get it incorporated, but it absolutely would be a topic of discussion as they're creating that plan.
Thank you. And before we close, I just want to lift up how important it is to support your legislative champion. It is not easy to, especially be in a diverse political climate, hold and carry reparations. You don't know what this sister is going through in closed session and executive session and what she has to do to make the case compelling. And then also it gives a lot for us to think about, like what are we doing to prepare for office or to prepare our next leaders, because we have a lot of critique for our leaders, but it doesn't take a special degree or anything along those lines. I mean, I was an elected official as an entrepreneur. So if you have that feeling, reach out to Sister Lisa to see how she was inspired. And make sure that you are supporting your legislative champions with education and also with your presence. Because if she's at the podium demanding reparations and there's no one there, it's not going anywhere. And so I was fortunate to have the support of the Chicago chapter of NCOBRA that was very organized at that time. They provided additional support to the stakeholders in Evanston that were also demanding reparations. And so that's why these ecosystems are also very important. You can call your regional leader, Jamoke in the case of the South, and he can help organize support for you and just be in touch with your regional leaders. But lastly, we cannot close without acknowledging the historic events of yesterday. It is very important to note that we are hyper locally advancing reparations in a global movement for repair for global Africa. And what happened was the United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution that was led by the President of Ghana and the nation of Ghana, declaring the transatlantic slave trade as a gravest crime against humanity. This is incredible. There were over 121 nation states that supported it. There were three that did not. You should know one of those three was the US. So we are in a hostile environment, but hyper locally, we can do so much in our institutions and in our communities. So I want to encourage everyone that what we're doing locally is having global impact. It is inspiring and emboldening these types of national and international organizing. And I want to encourage everyone that the work being done locally is seen, is discussed in global spaces. And just like Brother Mwali went to the World Conference Against Racism, that global convening birthed local initiatives like what I was able to build on in Evanston that was led by Judge Lionel Jean Baptiste. I tell that story a lot. So I just want everyone to know that you are a part of a global movement making a huge impact, and you can continue to learn more about what's happening on the global effort as we synchronize these efforts at the Global Circle for Reparations and Healing. You could look that up online. There is a global strategy and many other organizations that are looking to coordinate our efforts for global Africa.
Jamoke, can I have 60 seconds, please?
Um, I
Only
was going to
60
say you
seconds.
should ask the person who just finished speaking.
Who is that?
That's Brother Onaji.
Hey,
Onaji
Brother
OE.
Onaj.
Yes.
Thank you so much. People, let me tell you, Saturday is a phenomenal day. I don't know if there's ever been a day where we have Nkechi speaking in the morning between 11 and 1, and Audra speaking between 2 and 4. Appeal is doing a project featuring Nkechi speaking about what you just spoke about in terms of the UN declaration. And then I and another sister is doing inaugural Social Work Reparations Day, declaring it on March the 28th. This is free, it's all on Zoom. And I would want you to come out and support these two sisters who are on the forefront in this Women's History Month, to support them and the fact that they are speaking on the same day, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. If you click the web address I put in the chat, you'll be able to find registration information. This is Saturday, 11 to 1 for the part one, lunch break between 1 and 2. You have to register in two separate web addresses. And then the second one is from 2 to 4. Asante San.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brother. Yeah, so real quick, as we wrap this up, the trivia question was, this is actually very famous, was thinking that, the fact that we're in Her Story Month, was who took a petition around the country to get names and support for creating reparations, giving land grants to people out west, as well as resources. That would be Sojourner Truth. Many people don't know that part of her story. And she was an advocate for reparations, and she was advocating for at least 20 acres of land to be given to formerly enslaved Africans. She worked with people right outside of DC who were, coming out of enslavement and just not being treated very well. She knew if they had some land, they could take better care of themselves. And so I'm sorry we didn't get to all of the questions. I think there was a couple more questions in the chat, but again, just want to give a big thanks to Sister Lisa Frank, who represented for Decatur, continues to represent for Decatur, and Brother Miley Davis for your work with Beacon Hill Black Alliance for Human Rights, as well as serving on the Decatur Reparations Task Force and all the work that you do for our people, brother. We thank you both for taking your time out to share with us in the National Reparations Strategy session with First Repair. All right, and
Thank you. And this is
acknowledging the historic day
very
yesterday.
inspiring. And I see so many people I've known over the years. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
I see your hand back up again, one number.
No,
Rob.
but since I'm off, if you could send us that information about the event on Saturday, we could share it with our listserv, if you don't mind emailing it to us. Okay, thank you.
Please share information on the events coming up in Tulsa and on the other place that they mentioned. Please, please, please. Thank you.
Will do.
Will do. All right. Again, thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. Be powerful, be great.
Peace and blessings.
And blessings.
Bye. Thank you.
And blessings.
Thank you.
All right, Phil Coffee in the house.
I found it. I found the link.
Hang up
Victoria,
on
come to it.
I'm gonna
Phil,
get up
Vicky,
driving back from the UN. So we'll connect offline. Peace and blessings.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon. Bye.